Feels like the whole world's in quarantine. Everyone's working from home. Tech supporting people working from home when you yourself are working from home is its own special kind of hell. But unless you work from home regularly, doing so for anything longer than like the occasional one-off might not be easy. I've definitely got a few tips for working from home, both as someone who's had to do working from home who doesn't usually, and yeah, I do IT support, I do phone support. Pretty much all of the calls over the past couple of weeks have literally all been people having stuff like VPN issues, remote server issues, help this thing doesn't work when I'm not in the office issues. So here are a few tips. Here's one for if your workplace hasn't closed yet, or if you aren't in an at-risk group, or if it is easy, convenient and safe for you to still get to the office, here's a few things that you can check if you haven't already. If you're bringing home a work computer, probably a laptop, but not necessarily. Firstly, just make sure it's set up. It's got the VPN installed, it's got everything that you're going to need. Has it got all its Windows updates, antivirus updates? Is all the software on there? If it's not a machine you usually use, have you logged into it yourself before? This really is important, especially if you're on a Windows box, especially if you're in a domained environment. If the first time you try to log on, you're not on the Office network, it can't get to the server to figure out if you are who you say you are. So yeah, just make sure it's been logged on before you even think of taking it home. If you're going to be using your home computer, for one thing, if it's a laptop, bring it in and check those things, because you can make sure you've got everything, comparing it to your main machine. Do you have all the remote access tools or VPN software or whatever? Check them, make sure they're working whilst you've still got the chance of easily contacting someone for it. Can you see all the files or internal websites or systems that you need to be able to do? If you're remoting into your office computer, because a lot of people are doing that, this might not be something you can do yourself, you might have to run this by IT, but make sure that any power saving settings are disabled. Because, yeah, if you're going to be remoting into your work computer from home, it still requires the work computer to be switched on. Similarly, once you're finished at the end of the workday, although you'll be using the same shutdown options menu, disconnect. Don't sleep, don't hibernate, don't shut down, disconnect the session or log out. This does catch people out, and then your computer's not on, you can't get in, unless someone is in the office to go and switch it on. Another thing that might not be quite so obvious, but if you haven't already, change your password before you leave the office. Because changing your password when you're off-site, it's possible but not always very easy. So if you've got a regularly expiring password, do a slightly early change before you start working from home, so you've got as much time as possible on a known working password. There are also things that you can set up at home. Clear some space as best you can. For some people, it's not going to be easy. Some people, they work from home a lot, or, you've got a spare room, you've got a little office, you've got a dining room with a large table that you can get access to as long as it's not just before mealtime. Some of us, we live in small flats that don't necessarily have a lot of space. Do the best that you can. If you're remoting in from your own machine, what I did on mine, I set up a profile specifically for work-related stuff. For one, there are less distractions. I'm not immediately going, oh, look, I can load up my music playlist. Oh, look, I can open Steam and start gaming. Oh, look, I can open this and, do my hobbies. It's I've just got it set up for work. The other advantage to stuff like that, you can make sure that only the apps that start up in that profile are the ones that you need. You can set browser default pages to, like, stuff like your main kind of remote access page or your Office web page or whatever. But another thing important, especially for some types of VPN setup, log out any other local users. Some are set up that they won't allow you to connect if there are other local users logged in the background. So yeah, if you have got a separate work profile that you set up, log yourself out first. If it's like a shared family PC, just make sure other people know that they need to be logged out so that you can get to stuff. If at all possible, connect with a physical network cable. Just there's multiple reasons for this. Stability and latency for one, especially if you're doing stuff like video conferencing or if you're doing stuff like remote working, as in, like a remote connection into a server. But the main reason, to be honest, is everyone at home in your area is going to be using their wireless devices. Everyone's going to be on the wireless at once. Even if you're only connecting to your router, the band that Wi-Fi uses is just going to be much more heavily swamped than usual. So yeah, it's a lot easier to connect in via Ethernet. If you need to connect in via a VPN, check ahead of time that it connects. Some routers, especially those provided by your ISP, have a default setting that don't allow certain types of VPN to connect unless you allow it in the settings. So again, check ahead of time. Especially if you don't live on your own, try to restrict or coordinate the following activities to minimise any networking issues. Heavy downloads, and yeah, it's not just like someone downloading dodgy movies off BitTorrent. No, it's like if you've got a Steam user who's downloading games similar for PlayStation and Xbox. If you're downloading software updates for other things, if you're a bit of a geek and wanting to download the latest Linux ISO or whatever, don't do that at the same time as you're trying to do your work. Netflix and the like, and gaming. Yeah, this might be trickier if you've got other people in the house with you, but chances are they're all supposed to be remote working or homeschooling at the same time, so kind of try to designate certain times as work times and certain times as hobby times. If you need to make calls or do like video conferencing or stuff like this, check that your mic, speakers, headset or whatever, just make sure they're working fine. If you're using any sort of wireless headset, and that you don't have a charging dock for it, make sure you've got a backup or two. Make sure that you've got multiple ways of being able to successfully do audio if the batteries run flat on your main headset. It happens. Try as much as you can to eliminate background noise. So close windows to get rid of outdoor sounds like traffic or people doing the gardening or things like that. And switch off things like fans and air conditioning. Obviously these two things are a lot easier if it's like not in the middle of summer. If your kids are at home, you've got washing machines, doorbells, stuff like that, they might be harder to manage, but do the best that you can. But similarly, if you're on a conference call or you're taking a call from someone and they have background noise, be tolerant if you can. Like I said, I've been doing IT support. I've had my headset on, listening to people, and they've had their kids in the background who just refuse to be ignored. Well, that's what kids do. If you got your kids at home, especially if they're not used to you being at home in the day, they're going to want to talk to you or play with you or check things with you. They're not going to understand. So again, if you're on a call with someone who's got kids, be tolerant. They're probably doing the best that they can, but even with the best will in the world, sometimes noisy backgrounds are going to be noisy. And also just be aware that some things are going to be slower or less responsive than if you were working at the office. It's unavoidable. You can mitigate it the best that you can, but it's not going to be perfect. Things are going to be slow. Things are going to glitch out. You can't avoid it. Other considerations, again, nearly everyone else is remote working at the moment. So yeah, again, people may not be responsive as usual. Especially stuff like IT staff and the like. Please be patient with your IT staff. call volumes are significantly higher, wait times are significantly higher, and chances are that your IT people are also working from home, so their ability to get into stuff significantly slower. VPNs, remote desktop services, and even just the internet is going to be under a much heavier load. Things are going to take longer to connect, things are going to drop out randomly. Again, it's going to happen probably at the least convenient moment. If your VPN has a backup setting, and if you've got a backup profile on there, because some places set that up, make sure you know that it is there and give it a try if need be. And the usual things apply. Take breaks, get drinks, go to the loo, whatever. It's almost easier to forget. You're at home and you're in the space where you usually are, so you're not like thinking of taking breaks the same way as you would when you're in the office. Just try to remember. Then most of all, stay safe. Use a phone or social media or whatever. Keep in touch with friends, colleagues, family for your well-being as much as theirs, and it's great to be able to catch up with people. And this was recorded and edited out of hours, not during a work shift. And hopefully I'm going to be back to something vaguely resembling a regular recording and upload schedule. We'll see how that goes. But until next time, see ya.